I love Kevin Wiles. I mean, everyone does. Time to run the no huddle. Talking Lamar Jackson. So, after the Ravens expressed some frustration this week, Mr. Met, that big hits on Lamar are not being penalized, head coach John Harbaugh was asked about it on Monday. Take a listen.
Do you think Lamar is at all treated differently, seeing as he's a running quarterback and, somewhat like Cam Newton had in prior experiences, or Michael Vick?
I think all the quarterbacks should be treated the same. I don't think any quarterback should be judged any differently, in terms of how they're protected. That's for sure.
I feel like if I put on extra padding and stuff like that, I'd be looking like a transformer or something. And I don't want to be slowed down. But I just feel, we should be protected. All quarterbacks in the league, not just myself. Everyone should be included with that, especially while we're in the pocket, our leg area and stuff like that, That's it, man. But, football is football. Guys get aggressive sometimes. Stuff happen. Probably don't mean it, but I like the ref to throw the flag, though, like if they catch it.
All right, Mike, the reporter that referenced you in that question to Harbaugh, is this something you dealt with, and do you see the same thing happening to Lamar?
Yeah, I dealt with it when I was in Atlanta, and I dealt with it in Philadelphia, and I used to always go to Andy Reid, and I was always searching for answers but couldn't find one. I think the truth of the matter is this, the refs get paid to do a job, and they're professionals, and it's just hard to try to distinguish if it's a late hit, if it was a hit that, is within the guidelines, and it's never going to be definitive, I think. And the more you look at it, I look at myself and Cam and Lamar, and we want those calls, but every quarterback in the league wants those calls, and sometimes they're hard to make. You might get one or two in a game that you can look at and say, okay, those were good calls, and like Lamar just referred to, these guys are playing aggressive, and they coming after the quarterback. That's what they're taught to do. That's never going to change. So if you get one or two calls within the game, you should be happy. Other than that, you're not going to get 5 or 6 calls. It's going to change the dynamic of the game. So you just got to go with the flow, play the quarterback position, and be tough in there. Be tough in the pocket.
Yeah, agree with all that, Mike, but Lamar is correct, or John Harbaugh is correct. Everyone should be officiated the same, and they're not. True story. Yeah. October of 2015, I was auditioning for a job with FS1, and the very first segment, the very first topic, was about Cam Newton getting hit late and getting hit often and not getting the calls. And I think anyone that watches football knows there is a direct correlation, or I guess an indirect correlation, between how often a quarterback runs and how often he's going to get any type of roughing the passer, late hit, unnecessary roughness penalty, and it is a direct line. So like Vic and Cam and Lamar get it less than any other quarterback, and it's not just when they're out running the ball like running backs. You look at, I know we joke about it, but Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, I still am not over how many times he got hit while he was a passer. We all know the statuesque quarterbacks, Tom Brady, those guys, always get these calls. I think it's just a psychological thing that referees and I think human beings have, which is people that you think are less likely to be able to protect themselves, you want to protect them for them. So I think quarterbacks that are athletic have, for as long as I've watched football, not gotten the benefit of these flags, and quarterbacks that never move always get the benefit of these flags. It's not how it should be, Broussard, but this isn't not a new issue. Kyler deals with it, by the way. Kyler Murray. If you've watched there have been at least 3 plays this year in Arizona where if Kyler was any other quarterback aside from maybe Lamar, I think it would have been flagged. But the refs almost, even when he's passing, look at him as a hybrid, like, well, you got to kind of let the defenders do a little extra, or else what are they going to do? Guy's so fast and so elusive. And so I just think this is on Lamar's. I don't think the NFL is going to change on this. They didn't change for Mike. They didn't change for Cam, even though they probably should, or they definitely should.
Well, Nick, I agree with you and Harbaugh. Inside the pocket, obviously all quarterbacks should be treated the same. And you're right. I mean, maybe they're trying, but there's something psychological there where they're not giving these guys the benefit of the doubt inside the pocket. But once they're running, I mean, you've got to, Michael Vick and Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson, they're not sliding necessarily like the rest of these quarterbacks. And sometimes, I mean, they're juking you. And do they dip like, I'm not saying they're going to fake the slide because I know you can't do that, but you can just dip in a move, and a lot of quarterbacks, the defender would say, okay, he's going down. With guys that run it as well as the guys I mentioned, the defender can't afford to do that. So I do think they're going to take more hits because they're not known, or Lamar in this case, for sliding, and you have to let the defender do his best to bring him down. If Lamar starts sliding, I think it's a different thing. But you can't bank on Lamar sliding. If I'm a defender and he's running, the last thing I'm thinking he's about to do is slide. So I got to try to tee off on him and bring him down.
Well, I'm happy that Harbaugh is worried so much about Lamar's safety. And since he's not getting these calls, Jenna, perhaps don't call needless 5-yard runs to go after a record that no one cares about, despite Chris Broussard saying he's going to follow the record.
I knew that was coming.
Since he's not getting the calls, let's take that play out of our playbook. Let's not put our guy in unnecessary danger. So that would just be me.
Well, Mike, is that a legit record? I like the record, Mike. Is that legit? 100 yards?
About that one.
There it is. Mike Vick's with me, Wild. You hear that?
We're staying here? Good. I want to ask Mike a question. I want to ask Mike a question here.
Awkward at all.
But we moved on too quickly because I want to stay here just for a moment because, by the way, Trey Lance is going to deal with some of this as well. Mike, when you're watching games, not just when you were playing, doesn't it seem like even on the slides, the refs err on the side of, like, certain guys, if there is any contact on the slide, they throw the flag. And for the most athletic quarterbacks, when they do slide, which maybe isn't as often, and there's contact, it feels to me like it's officiated like the refs almost feel badly for the defenders. And the whole game is officiated protecting the offense. And then it feels like there's certain guys like, well, yeah, he was sliding and you did hit him, but man, that guy's so hard to bring down. I felt like you took a ton of those hits, even when you slid, that didn't get flagged. I know Lamar does, or is that just a figment of my imagination here?
Well, we're so blessed to be able to move within the pocket. We can slide, we can push up, we can move lateral in the pocket. We can do things that other quarterbacks can't do. So I think the refs kind of get caught up in watching us and the things that we do. And once we get hit, it's a shock to them. If we scrambling, we outside the pocket and we slide and we still get hit, they looking at us like, yo, they just tough guys. This is what they do. Other guys, they like sitting ducks back there, and I think the referee have a little bit of empathy for them back there, or sympathy, and just kind of err on side of giving calls to those guys.
I totally agree. Yeah, they try to protect them. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right, now we're moving on. Talk some San Francisco 49ers. So rookie quarterback Trey Lance taking all the reps at Thursday's practice. Niners preparing to start the 3rd overall pick for the first time Sunday. It's not going to be easy. They're going up against the undefeated Cardinals. The door isn't completely closed on Jimmy G playing, though. Mike, what do you expect the Niners' game plan to look like if Trey Lance starts?
Jen, I expect them to open it up. Trey Lance already showed the ability in the preseason that he had a good understanding of the passing game. He moved the ball up and down the field. They scored touchdowns. They got field goals. And now I think it might be a little more of a different element to the offense. Maybe some RPOs, some zone reads, some design quarterback runs. But I think this is why Kyle Shanahan drafted this kid, just to showcase his talents at times like this. And, you know, it could be a situation if they go out and win, they might never look back to Jimmy G. So, you know, he's the #1 pick, and he got to go out and show it.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Trey Lance looks great, then I think as long as he plays well and they're winning, he's going to keep this job. We know it's his next year for sure. But I think they would have a better chance of winning if Jimmy Garoppolo was a starter. And look, Jimmy Garoppolo's not elite. Trey Lance can do a lot of things that Garoppolo can't do, and it opens up a whole new world of opportunities in the playbook. I get all that, and his upside is much higher than Jimmy Garoppolo's. But Jimmy G does win football games. I keep saying it. He's 24-10 in his 5 years in San Francisco as a starter. They're 7-27. Those same guys, those same coaches when Jimmy G doesn't play in San Francisco. And he had them in position. Nobody was going to put him in the Pro Bowl, but he had them in position to be 3-0 this season. And you know, if there's not for that late kick by Green Bay, they win that game. So I just think Jimmy G does get an unfair knock. And here's the thing about Trey Lance. As good as he may be in the future, it's still his first ever start. First ever start. I'm supposed to believe he's going to go in there against the only undefeated team in the league and just be lights out in his first start ever and his second start at any level in the last 2 calendar years? I just think there's going to be some growing pains like we've seen with every other rookie quarterback, Nick. So as much as I like Trey Lance's potential, I'm not ready to say he's about to go out there and be Kyler Murray in his first game.
No other rookie quarterback, though, is in as good of a position. No other rookie quarterback has as good of an offensive system, and we'll see if Kittle plays, but as good of players around him. I mean, listen, there's George Kittle and what the Niners have, and then there's, you know, what Mac Jones has, which is what they hoped was going to be George Kittle-level production. They're tight ends, but haven't gotten it. Obviously, the Jets don't have it. The Jags don't have it. So I think he is in the best position to succeed. Now, I do think that starting Trey Lance here, Wilds, makes it more likely that the Niners get blown out than if you were